Minecraft's mobs are as old as Minecraft themselves, ever since the first pig to the creeper to all of the mobs today that we see in our Minecraft worlds. It adds liveliness, characters, repetitive content. What's not to like about mobs? Usually, these mobs are decided by Mojang and their wonderful team. However, a few years back, we, the players, got the opportunity to choose what would be next in the game. This is what we know as the mob vote. But what's the history behind the mob vote, and was this decision for the better?
As the glow squid won the majority vote, it had many fans upset.
What the fuck? Why is that?
When you give them the pure right to decide everything, they'll make bad decisions.
Started forming groups dedicated to hunting and game ending the glow squid.
Bad influences can taint the vote, and everyone deserves to have their voice heard.
The year is 2017. This year was iconic for many reasons. I mean, YouTube Rewind was around, the greatest music video of all time was released, it's everyday bro. Alright, this was a peak year. A peak year for almost everything except for Minecraft. You see, at this time in Minecraft's history, it was seeing its lowest relevancy, according to Google Trends. Like it or not, people were constantly wondering whether or not Minecraft was dead. Now, whilst Mojang didn't say anything about their relevance slowing down, it was apparent that they were shivering in their timbers, weeing in their britches if you will. It was at this moment that Mojang decided to do something new, to allow the fans to make decisions of what they would want to see next in the game. They would do this in the form of a mob vote. This would all take place at Minecon 2017, or Minecraft Earth. When this announcement was released, the initial perception was actually pretty positive, well, aside from a few, but hey, who's counting? At this point, absolutely nothing could go wrong. This seems like it'll genuinely be a good idea, right? Right? Well, it would be useless of me to explain this mob vote without explaining the cast first. There were 4 mobs to choose from. Mob A, Barnacle Man, monster of the depths. You ever feel like the ocean isn't scary enough? Oh yeah? Well, take a look at this guy. Using the power of its mouth, this guy will suck you to the bottom of the ocean. Pause. It uses its mouth to get around, and if that's not enough for you, even Jeb promoted it. It added some sense of uncertainty to the ocean and made ocean traversal just a little bit scary. This clearly, without a shadow of the doubt, was the best mob. It was voted off in the first round. For just a moment, let's skip Mob B and move on to Mob D. The Nether is already pretty scary. I mean, you're going to hell. Literally. How about we make it scarier? This is the Wildfire. Its body has shields to protect itself from player attacks. This would allow for perhaps interesting drops and increased caution when going into the Nether, leading to slower progression and more fun. It was voted off in the second round. What about Mob C? Enter the Great Hunger. This mob was able to camouflage itself with the ground and consume mobs and items with its mouth, specifically enchanted items, allowing it to remove enchants. This would allow players to get rid of useless enchants on items, whilst not making it as easy as just using a grindstone, allowing for longer progression and more exploration. Good pick, right? It was gone by the third round. So that leaves one more mob, right? Enter the Phantom. What does he do? Well, if you haven't slept for 3 days, they'll harass you. That's pretty much it. This won the mob vote. Seriously, you know, what were we thinking? I have not seen a single YouTuber that does not completely detest this flying disgrace of a pterodactyl. God forbid I have to come out of my base and hear those ear-piercing shrieks that sound like a 3rd grade classroom with recorders. Their drops are just membranes that you can turn into potions that have the sole purpose of you floating down gracefully like you're on some Mary Poppins shit. Although the Wildfire fought a tough battle, it was no match. The Phantom had won the mob vote. At first, it seemed as though there was a positive reception around the Phantom being added to the game. However, a few years later, the jig was up, and most people were surely not fond of it. It should have come as no surprise to Mojang that this community didn't know what a good mob looked like. However, Mojang had a trick up their sleeve. They knew the next part of their plan, a machination which rivaled that of Einstein, a genius idea unforeseen by mankind. Another mob vote. The year is 2020, and the world is struck by a massive pandemic. Seeing that everyone is stuck at home, at this time Minecraft's popularity was at an incredible high. You see, a new generation of Minecraft YouTubers have entered out of the woodwork, and what time would be better than now to add a much needed addition to the game to keep the content stream going. Minecraft decided to give the fans the opportunity to select between 3 new mobs added to the game. I mean, hey, second time's the charm, right? Our options were these 3. Number 1, Moobloom. This was a cow that would interact with bees, add a new flower to the game, along with perhaps maybe new farming techniques. Next up was the Isolager, a mystical mountain-based mob with the ability to hurl ice clouds at players, completely changing the game when it came to mobs. Who knows, maybe you would even be able to get some cool enchants or a good drop from them. And finally, last but not least, we have the Glow Squid. This squid came with the ability to glow. Now, to give the Glow Squid the benefit of the doubt, it was able to have some new features later, but at this point in time, it had no other features besides, well, glowing. Surely the Minecraft community had learned from their lesson, right? They wouldn't add another bad mob to the game. However, the only boulder in the path of the Piss Cow and Isolager were the Stan Empire. Now, do you remember how I mentioned that new generation of YouTubers? Well, did I also mention how popular these guys really were? These fellas had an incredible cult-like following, completely taking YouTube and Twitch by storm. I also failed to mention that this following was extremely loyal to their content creators. How so? Well, I'll let this tweet do the talking. Immediately, everyone, including other YouTubers, knew that this mob vote was over before it even began. The followers of the mega successful YouTubers started lining their opinions with that of Dream Minecraft of the Boreal Valley, which led to the inevitable win of the Glow Squid. The rest of the fan base was utterly upset. YouTube comments flooded the announcement video in anger of this change. YouTubers made content in stark criticism of these YouTubers. Now obviously this kind of hate was kind of unwarranted, but it is a fair point that skewing the results of a vote would make the vast majority feel as if their votes were unheard. On that day, the small, self-opinionated community was shown that their decisions didn't matter if they didn't have the numbers to show for it. I mean, for crying out loud, Captain Sparkles made a server just to burn the damn thing to a stake. Talk about calamari. After the Glow Squid was released, they did add some additional features like glowing signs that could look pretty cool in RTX. However, if they were always going to add an additional feature, think about the additional features that could have been added to the Moobloom or the Isolager. Not to mention that we didn't even get to see it in-game until about a year later when 1.17 was released. Fast forward about 2 or 3 years, we've seen a relatively clear mob vote. There have been 2 held since then, and most of them have been controversy-free. The 2 mobs that were selected to be added into the game were the Sniffer and the Allay. The Allay serves the function of basically collecting items based on what you ask it to, and if you place a note block down, it'll drop said items. The Sniffer actually added some pretty cool additions to the game, such as sniffing out rare seeds that are now actually being used for different plant additions to the game. The Allay is already out, but the Sniffer will be seen in a much later anticipated 1.20 update. Now, new mobs are great, but behind this guise of new mobs lay a big problem. When scripting this video, I actually forgot what the last 2 mobs voted into the game were. Now, what relevancy does this have to my point? Well, it proves that rampant mob addition to the game isn't particularly a good idea. You can see this in games like Valorant or Overwatch, where the only major updates are adding new players to the game around once a year. After a while, it gets kind of stale. If Minecraft were to add a new mob every year or so, the game kinda will feel overpopulated. We haven't even really seen a new boss mob in a while that might serve some purpose besides ordinary mobs that just add quality of life changes. The second problem with the mob vote comes in the form of the changes themselves. Remember the first mob vote, the one with the phantom and such? Well, the Barnacle mob's ability was later replaced with a magma block, and the Great Hunger's ability was later switched with a grindstone. Can you see the issue with this? It doesn't give any reason to hold a mob vote if you're just going to add the feature into the game later anyway. You see, Minecraft is all about creativity, and the functions seen by the magma cube or grindstone would have been a lot more creative if the players who had used them had to find harder ways to complete those same tasks. I can get a grindstone just about anywhere. It's cheap. However, actually finding a camouflage mob and bringing it back to home base leads to more exploration and a better player progression too. It makes the game harder and longer. And this is because there are so many people who have played the game to the point where they can just get from nothing to netherite in about 1 session. Imagine the function of a magma cube, pulling things down from the surface. It's commonly seen in a lot of farms. Now, imagine it being replaced with the mob. It would make the already OP farms just a little bit tougher to make, incentivizing playing the game a bit more and in a different way at that. As it stands, Minecraft has become too easy. The Ender Dragon has a specific pattern to it and can be killed within a matter of seconds. You can craft farms to get basically any item you wish. Transport has just become flying. Weapons and armor have become so good that it doesn't even make sense to use gold, iron, or even diamond armor anymore. Hardcore mode has just become easy once you get a totem, something that prevents you from dying. You can get full enchanted diamond armor for basically 4 emeralds, and now the game kind of reaps what it sows. By adding these quality of life features, they've actually made Minecraft lose some of its charm, the serenity, the creativity, the difficulty. And whilst I doubt that Minecraft will ever die, these rampant changes that just make the game easier will eventually lose people. It's already kind of losing me. At the end of the day, Mojang are the pros. Their teams are the one with the CS degrees and experience on making a good game. We probably aren't. I think it might be a little bit late to rescind the changes they made, but if the game continues to update like this, it'll just make Minecraft feel modded for a lot of people. Part of what makes Minecraft actually fun is not knowing how to play the game, being a noob, being terrible at it. As a matter of fact, plenty of people stand by that opinion. However, if there's one thing to take away from this video, it's that you shouldn't doubt this Minecraft team. And just as this game is becoming easier, I feel as though there is certainly room to improve upon this mistake for the chance of redemption.